Chapter 8 of Martha by the Day by Julie M. Lippmann. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 8. Before setting out for his work the next morning, Sam Slosson tried to prepare Ma and Miss Lang for the more than probable appearance during the day of the officer of the law he predicted Friedrich Longbine would have engaged to prosecute Martha. "He has a clear case against you, mother, no doubt of that. You'd no business in his place at all, let alone that you assaulted and battered him. He can make it hot for us, and I don't doubt he will." Mrs. Slosson attended with undivided care to the breakfast needs of such of her flock as still remained to be fed. The youngsters had all vanished. "If he wants to persecute me, let him persecute me. I guess I got a tongue in my head. I can tell the judge a thing or two, which, being probably a mother himself, he'll see the sense of. Do you think I want Sammy growing up under my very eyes, a beer-drinking wife-beater, because he seen the example of it set before him by a Dutchman when he was a boy? Such things makes an impression on the young, which they ain't sense enough to know the difference between a example and a warning. And the girls, too, as I told you last night. It's bad for the country when matrimony ain't made to look like a prize package, no matter what it really is. What's it going to become of the population? I should like to know. Here's Cora now, wanting to be a telephone girl when she grows up, and there's no knowing what Francie'll choose. But you can take it from me they'll both of 'em drop their votes for the single life. They'll prefer to thump a machine of their own, with 12 or 15 per coming to them, rather than be the machine that's thumped, and pay for the privilege out in their own pockets besides." As fate would have it, the day went placidly by in spite of Mr. Slosson's sombre prognostications. No one came to disturb even the tenor of its way. Then, at evening-fall, while Martha was still absent, there was a gentle rap upon the door, and Claire, anxious to anticipate Ma, made haste to answer it, and saw a stranger standing on the threshold. It was difficult at first to distinguish details in the dusk of the dim hallway, but after a moment she made out the rotund figure of Mr. Longbine. She could not see his face, but his voice was more than conciliatory. "Excuse me, lady," he began apologetically. "I have for Miss Slosson a little present here. I think she like it. She looks so good-natured, and I know she is kind to bum animals. My wife, her Maltese cat, was having some little kittens already a month ago. I think Miss Slosson, she like to have one of dem pussies, ja? Anyhow, I bring her von here, and ask you will give it to her mit my thanks and my kind regards, and best wishes, and anything else you think I could do for her. You tell Miss Slosson I like her to ask me to do something whenever she needs it, yes?" "Now, what do you think of that?" was Martha's only comment when Claire related the incident, and great Sam Slosson shook with laughter till his sides ached and a fit of coughing set in, and said it was a caution, but mother always did have a winning way about her with the men. "As well I have, or I wouldn't have drew you, Sammy, and you sure are a trump. Only I wished you'd get rid of that cough. You had it just about long enough," Martha responded, half in mockery, half in affectionate earnest. "And now, me lad, leave me be, me and Miss Clare. We has things of importance to talk over. It's to-morrow at 10 she's to go see Mrs. Sherman. Miss Clare, you must be looking your best, for the first minute the Madame claps eyes to you, that'll be the deciding minute for you. Have you everything you need ready to your hand? Is all your little laces and frills done up fresh and tidy, so's you can choose the becomingest? Where's that lace butterfly for your neck I like so much? I washed it as careful as could be a couple of weeks ago, but have you wore it since?" Claire hesitated. "I think I'll put on the simplest things I've got, Martha," she replied evasively. "Just one of my linen shirt-waists with the stiff collar and cuffs. No fluffy ruffles at all." "But that scrap of lace at your throat ain't fluffy ruffles. And stiff, starched things don't kind of become you, Miss Clare. They ain't your style. You don't want to look like you've been dressed by your worst enemy, do you? You're so little and dainty, you got to have delicate things to go with you. Say, Just try that butterfly on you now. I want to see if it'll do all right." By this time Claire knew Martha well enough to realize it was useless to attempt to temporize or evade. "I can't wear the butterfly, Martha dear," she said. "Why can't you?" "Well, now, please don't worry, but I can't wear it because I can't find it. I dare say it'll turn up some day when I least expect, but just now it seems to be lost." Martha looked grave. "It came out of the wash all right, didn't it?" she inquired anxiously. "I remember distinctly leaving it soak in the suds, so's there wouldn't be no strain like rubbing it, and the dust'd just drop out natural. But now I come to think of it, I don't recollect ironing it. Now, honest, did it come out of the wash, Miss Clare?" "No, Martha, but there ain't no but about it. I must have gone and lost your pretty lace for you, and it was real at that." "Never mind, it's of no consequence. Truly, please don't." "Worry? Sure, I won't worry. What's the use worrying? But I'll make it right, you bet your life, which is much more to the purpose. Say, I shouldn't wonder but it got into the tub some ways, and then, when I let the water out, the suckage drew it down the pipe. Believe me, that's the very thing that happened, and I'll never see Sweet Annie any more." "It doesn't make a particle of difference, Martha. I never liked that butterfly as much as you did, you know." "Perhaps you did, and perhaps you didn't, but all the same, you're out a neck fixin', and it's my fault. And you're so bound to let me get square to save my face, Miss Clare. You see how it is, don't you? Well, last Christmas Mrs. Granville, she gave me a lace jabot, real Irish mull, and Carrick Macross, that's lace from an old country, as you know as well as me. She told me all about it. Fine? It'd break your heart to think one of them poor innocent colleens over there pricklin' her eyes out, making such a grandeur for the like of me, when no doubt she thought she was doing it for some great dame, would be sporting it out loud in her auto on Fifth Avenue. What use have I in my business for that kinder decoration, I should like to know? It'd only be distracting me, getting in my pails when I'm scrubbing, and by the time Cora and Francis grown up, jabots will be out. I'd much more use for the $5 bill was folded up in the box alongside. That now was becoming to my particular style of beauty. But the jabot, there ain't no use talking, Miss Clare. You'll have to take it off in my hands, I mean my chest, and then we'll be quits on the butterfly business, and no thanks to your nose on either side." It was useless to protest. The next morning, when Claire started forth to beard the lioness in her den, she was tricked out in all the bravery of Martha's really beautiful jabot, and looked as pretty as a picture, and then some, as Mrs. Slosson confidentially assured Sam. But the heart beneath the frilly lace and mull was anything but brave. It felt, in fact, quite as white and fluttery as the jabot looked, and when Claire found herself being actually ushered into the boudoir of the august presence, and told to wait, please, she thought it would stop altogether for very abject fright. Martha had tried in a sort of casual, matter-of-course way to prepare her little lady for the trial, by dropping hints every now and then as to the best methods of dealing with employers, the proper way to carry oneself when one went to live out in private families. "You see, you always been the private family yourself, Miss Clare, so it'll come kinder strange to you first off to look at things the other way. But it won't be so bad after you once get used to it. There's one thing it's good to remember. Them high-toned folks has somehow got it fixed in their minds that the rich must not be annoyed. So it'll be money in your pocket, as the saying is, if you can do your little stint without making any fuss about it, or drawing their attention. Just saw wood and say nothing, as my husband says. Mrs. Sherman, she told me when I first went there, and Radcliffe was a little baby, she strictly forbid anyone to touch him. 'Twas on account of what she called germs or something. Well, I never had no particular yearning to inflict him with none of my germs, but when she was off gallivanting, and that poor little lonesome fella used to cry and put out his arms to be took, I'd take him and give him the only real mother hugging he ever had in his life, and no harm to any of us, to me that give it, or him that got it, or her that was no wiser. Then later, when he was 4 or 5 and around that, she got a notion he was an angel child, and she used to go about telling the help and other folks he must be guided by love alone. I remember she said once he'd be as good as a kitten for hours at a time if you only give him a ball of twine to play with. Well, his nurse, she give him the ball of twine one day when she had something doing that took up all her time and attention on her own account, and when she come back from her outing, you couldn't walk a step in the house without breaking your leg. The nurse, she did sprain her ankle, on account of the cat's cradle effect the young villain had strung across the halls, and from one doorknob to the other, so there wasn't an inch of the place free. And he'd got the toothpaste tubes and squoze out the insides, and painted over every bit of mahogany he could find, doors and furniture and all. You can take it from me that house was a sight after the angel child got through with it. The girls and me, the whole push was working like mad clearing up after him before the madam had come home, and the nurse crying her eyes out for the pain and scared stiff lest she'd be sent packing. Also, if Radcliffe asked questions, we was to answer them truthful was another rule, and the puzzles he'd put to you. One day I remember he got me cornered with a bunch that was such fierce propositions Solomon in all his glory couldn't give him their truthful answers. Says he, Radcliffe, not Solomon, says he, I want another leg. You can't have it, says I. Why, says he. They ain't provided, I says. Little boys that's well regulated don't have but 2 legs. Why don't they? Because God thought 2 was enough for 'em. Why did God think so? You ask too many questions. Well, but just listen. I want to know. Now listen. Doth pussycats lay eggs? No. Why don't pussycats lay eggs? Because hens has a corner on the egg business. Why have they? Because they're born lucky, like Mr. Carnegie and Mr. Rockefeller. Doth Mr. Carnegie and Mr. Rockefeller? No. Why don't they? Say, Radcliffe, I ain't had a hard day, says I, but you make me tired. Why do I? Now, just once more, now, listen once more. Is God a lady? As Claire sat waiting for Mrs. Sherman, stray scraps of recollection such as these flitted through her mind and helped to while the time away. Then, as she still waited, she grew gradually more composed, less unfamiliar with her surroundings and the strange predicament in which she found herself. She could, at length, look at the door she supposed led into Mrs. Sherman's room, without such a quick contraction of the heart as caused her breath to come in laboured gasps, could make some sort of sketchy outline of the part she was foreordained to take in the coming interview, and not find herself barren of resource, even if Mrs. Sherman should say so-and-so instead of so-and-so. She had waited so long, had had such an ample time to get herself well in hand, that when at last a door opened, not Mrs. Sherman's door at all, but another, and a tall, upright, masculine figure appeared in the doorway, she at once jumped to the conclusion it was Shaw, the butler, come to summon her into the presence, and rose to follow, without too much inner perturbation. Mrs. Sherman is prevented from keeping her appointment with you this morning, descended to her from an altitude far above her own. She hopes you will excuse her. She has asked me to talk with you in her stead. You are Miss Lang, I believe. I am Mrs. Sherman's brother. My name is Ronald. End of chapter 8. Read by Sandra.